Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the third episode of our EPALE Malta Webinars for 2023. My name is Natasha Fabri, and I represent EPALE NSS Malta. Today, we're going to talk about financial literacy, education gaps across generations with 3 different generations. But first, a little bit of a background in case you do not know us. We are the EPALE NSS Malta team, and we work within the Lifelong Learning Unit, which is part of the Directorate for Research, Lifelong Learning and Employability under the aegis of the Ministry for Education here in Malta. We have various initiatives running this year where we have a very, very busy year. Of course, we are working with the EPALE thematic focuses for 2023, which are engage, skills for democratic life, empower, workforce with the right skills, and lastly, include, inclusive skills opportunities, which is relevant to our session about financial literacy today. Of course, we are in the third of 6 EPALE webinars for this spring, so I couldn't, of course, not mention the webinar series as part of our initiatives. We will soon be telling all of our EPALE members and stakeholders about the EPALE Awards, which we will launch very, very soon. The EPALE Awards will happen in October. And most importantly, today I wanted to highlight the contributor contests for this year. We have 2 contests running this year, one from March to May, which is for the best blog. So, of course, people who, members who are residents in Malta on EPALE can register and participate in this contest for the best blog. So we, of course, encourage people who are adult learning practitioners, researchers, and policymakers to share their ideas, share their content on EPALE, and be in with a chance to win a prize of 450 euros from A to Z Electronics. The second contest, which we will talk about later on during this series, is the best overall contributor on EPALE in Malta, and that is going to keep on running until November, until later this year. For more information about the contest, please go ahead and check the chat. My colleague Mariah is currently populating the chat with useful links about what I'm talking about, so please check your chat right now or later. Good. Another thing we want to share with you is that if you are not familiar with EPALE and you are not familiar perhaps with how you can contribute, how you can put content up on the platform yourself, we have created a series of instructional videos, one of which we're going to show you very shortly, that has to do with contributing, with putting up news, events, blogs, and so on of your initiatives or your organization's content on the platform. I'm going to switch off my sharing, and Mariah will be sharing the video with us now. Okay, well, we're just going to start the video in a second. Okay. Okay, we'll share the video with you later on because we're having some technical issues, not a problem. Okay, we're going to try one more time. Please bear with us. Okay, I think we're getting there. Okay.
Are you an adult learning teacher, researcher, organization, or policymaker? Do you want to share your work with a vibrant community of adult learning professionals with over 140,000 members from 37 different countries working to make a difference in adult learning? EPALE is the right place for you. In this video, we will talk about contributing on EPALE with news, blogs, and events. Uploading news is very easy. Choose the news section on the Contribute tab, or scroll down on the EPALE homepage to find the latest news. Both will lead you to the news page. Then, tap on the Add New Post on the top right side of the news page. Input the information, and don't forget to add images and links to your post whenever possible. Press Save to submit the post for approval. Next, let's add a blog. Choose the blog section on the Contribute tab, or scroll down on the EPALE homepage to find the latest blogs. Both will lead you to the blog page, and you can follow the same procedure we use to upload news. Add new post, add your content. Don't forget, you can also add documents using the Add New File option. Press Save to submit the post for approval. Finally, let's add an event. Choose the Event section on the Contribute tab, or scroll down on the EPALE homepage to find the See All Events in the Upcoming Events section. Both will lead you to the Events page, and you can follow the same procedure. Fill in the details of your event, add the dates and other information, for example links to register. Press Save to submit the post for approval. Join the EPALE community now.
Thank you very much, Mariah. Thank you. Good. So I'm going back to my presentation. I'm going to just show you one more slide and we'll get the discussion underway. Okay, so now let's turn to our speakers for this session. We're very happy to be hosting Gemma today, and of course representing Gemma is Petra Elul Mercer, who is a financial capability executive at Gemma for the within the Ministry for Social Policy and Children's Rights. We also have the pleasure of welcoming again Matthew Caruana, who is the CEO of JA Malta Foundation. He has already helped us on other initiatives in the past. And last but not least, Zach Chapara from Free Hour. He's the founder and CEO of Free Hour Malta, the biggest, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, the biggest student platform in Malta. Excellent. I will leave the floor to Petra. We're going to have a lovely discussion about financial literacy from 3 different perspectives. I leave it to you, Petra. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you, Natasha, and EPALE for inviting us for this chat. Thanks to your team, Zach and Matthew. It's good to have you, to capture you for the next 40 minutes where you can't move so that I can ask you a couple of questions and we can have a good discussion about money, and at the end of the day, who doesn't like to talk about money? So, as you know, financial literacy, financial education, from the research that has come out, is quite low amongst all generations, irrespective if you are as mature or as old as I am, or as young as Zach is, being part of Generation Z. So the reason is, it's interesting to understand why is financial literacy, the understanding of how we manage our money, so low. And even across which one thing that we have in common across our 3 generations, from Z to X to Y, it's low across all of them. And even when you look into further statistics and go into the baby boomers and all of that, it is also low within them. So what exactly is going on? But more interestingly, as life has become more volatile, and change is extremely rapid, it seems like each generation is being influenced even more, but in different ways. So at the end of these next 40 minutes or 35 minutes, it would be quite good for us to understand from each one of your perspectives, what is it that you see, your understanding of money, the skill about money, your attitude, but mostly the behavior that you have towards money. So I'm taking on Generation X because I was born in 1972. Zach, you are Generation Z, and you are not the youngest generation because now there's also Generation Alpha, which are even younger than yourselves. And then there's Matthew with millennials. Right. So let's kick off. We can say that our relationship to money, investing, and financial planning has radically changed, okay, over the couple of years. Now we've got the introduction, not now, well, about 7, 8 years, no longer probably, the introduction of crypto. Now there's also NFTs have emerged over the past few years, and our appetite to taking our first steps into investing has also increased. But the need for relevant education, financial education, hasn't changed, as we mentioned over the years. So, first question to all of you is: do you remember or how you learned about money? So, either one of you, Matthew or Zach, do you remember how you learned about money and where it came from? Where did this knowledge come from?
I can start if it's okay. To be honest, I think the biggest point of that question is I don't. And I don't, not because I think I don't remember, because I don't think it was ever prioritized in our educational system. So from both the early years in primary and secondary, but also going into junior college and university, um, this is a topic which never really got the importance it should have. Um, I think also an interesting differentiation is within business and within personal, right? So I think there is probably more knowledge on the business side if you're studying that side. So what return on investment is, how that works, what are areas you can invest in, and there's also a lot more content I feel on the internet based around those topics. But when it comes to if I'm receiving a 1,000 euro salary, how I manage that throughout my month, budget it, what's something smart to invest on and what's not, that's where I feel the lack is. Um, Through my personal experience, again, and through the knowledge we have about our demographic and also through my friends, I know that it's not something that is at the forefront of people's heads. So we're not, I know people who are very, let's say, not risk averse and who would be maybe more typically should be being more attentive with their spend, still aren't doing that to the effect or to the amount that they should have. And then there's the opposite people who don't really care and who are just going about it absolutely freely kind of thing. I lie kind of in between that personally. So I've learned a lot through business, which I've adopted myself personally in terms of splitting up, having savings accounts, being careful with the amount I spend on food, going out and learning and trying to balance those, at least looking at those at the end of the month, which took me till I was 24 to figure out, and also because my mom is in accounting, so she really helped me understand it. So that's where I got my education from. So that's my kind of general view on it on this question.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Matthew, what about you? How did you learn how to, the skill about managing money? Where did it come from? If it's
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I'm sorry, it seems like my camera is not going on. I just had half an hour of computer problems fighting with it, so I guess I need to make sure I have a budget for buying a new laptop, apparently, or else hopefully it recovers. Well, basically, to answer your question, I guess my learning on money management is ongoing and purely by trial and error. As Zach said, I don't recall ever having a lesson, a talk, or a leaflet, a brochure, I don't know, call it what, anything in terms of educational, telling me anything about managing my money. And this also answers, in my opinion, your first question that you did in your intro as to how come this is common throughout all generations, because quite honestly, nothing changed. So the educational system hasn't taken the input that people aren't made fully aware of how to manage their money and included that into some sort of curriculum or some subject and whatnot. There are some teachers that fit it in through certain topics, but it's not structured, in my opinion. And I think this is where the education system somewhat lacks us as individuals, as a community, as a country, and not just Malta. This is everywhere. It's very pretty much a Europe-wide issue. I've just came from a conference 2 days. Yesterday I landed, and we were discussing entrepreneurship and financial literacy again. So this is a topic that's been now coming up in various hot issues. But unfortunately, we seem not to take the message within the education system to include it there. So yeah, to answer your questions, learning by doing from my parents, from seeing things online, going through tough times myself and say, if only I had that skill before, or if only I knew this later, before it's too late. So that is what I would say. Yes, it's purely a case of trial and error.
Mm-hmm. Yes, in fact, I mean, most of the time when I ask this question to various audiences of various ages, sort of, they always, education is the last thing that they mention. Mostly it comes from their parents, depending on which age group. Then it's the grandparents as well that come in. Then depending on the culture, because culture does have an impact as well on the financial education in terms of experiences, it's what they either would have gone through or what they would have seen their parents going through that gave them that awareness and knowledge on how to manage their money. But going on to that, both of you, Zach, you're a founder of Free Hour and also CEO together with Matthew. And you mentioned this previously, that Zach. So you're both managing and running these companies. Out of curiosity, is there a difference between the way you manage the finances, your organization's finances, to the way you manage your own? And why
Um,
is that? Because it's, at the end of the day, it's still money.
well, if I can start now, I think in theory there shouldn't be much of a difference because you're managing money, you have a budget, you have aims, objectives, targets, obligations that you need to. So in theory, the mindset should be the same. However, I don't find myself handling it the same way, unfortunately. It could be bad habits or whatnot. But I've been managing budgets of other organizations since student organizations, since I was a student. From managing a small fund for a party, for an event, for a talk, for a debate, to a large-scale event, to a conference, then to a startup, now within an NGO, a foundation with bigger budgets. So I find myself more careful, obviously, with other people's money, and probably that is the reason why, because it's other people's money. So I know that I need to be fully accountable, making sure I have all the paperwork, all the invoices and receipts tracked, listed, accounted for, presented a budget at the beginning of the year. Ongoing, there's a board meeting that I need to account to with the variances of the budget from the budget as where these are, and therefore I need to list everything. Whenever I try to list all my expenses and keep track of my receipts personally, I think I fail on day 7 of the month, and I fail and stop there, and then I say I forget, or this time I don't have time. So the attitude is different, and I know I'm wrong. It's my problem and it's my fault. But unfortunately, I think the way we deal with and the habits we have sometimes hold us back from maybe adopting best practices that we adopt in the business, or at least myself. So maybe Zach contradicts me and he has everything organized as well. But for me, I find it that I should be adopting best practices that I adopt at work, at my personal life, but I don't. So probably it is I wasn't brought up doing it. I wasn't told to do it before when I was young, and I was still under kind of I do what I'm told kind of thing. So unfortunately, no. That's the simple answer.
From my end, I would answer the same in terms of it's no, and I think the general reasoning is correct in the context of it feels like there's more at stake with the business's finances, and so there's naturally more pressure to stick to that. That being said, as the founder. Being it's my company a bit different to Matthew here, where I don't even need to present it to anyone at the end of the year, rather it has to be kind of presented to me. I struggled with this concept at the beginning a lot. So in the first 3 years when I started it at 18, 19, I had no idea. I'd say, I think we can make this much this year based on pure intuition. I can run a list of costs, but I was never the right person to be diligent enough with that. And with that self-awareness, I've built a team around me who takes care of that, so I don't have to. So I'm actually on the opposite side of this conversation, where I'm the accounts team's biggest problem, because I always want to spend a bit more. I always want to do that, and I'm not trained to stick within that remit. I also feel creatives often aren't. You're often more of either a numbers guy, or maybe more of a creative person, and so I don't enjoy to be sticking to these kind of preset limitations, so to speak. But I've built a structure where I have to, and I'm held accountable to it via structure. And again, in a business, you have the opportunity to build that structure with other people helping you, bringing in external expertise. So I have someone internally who handles it, and also a company externally who does this vetting on us as well. So there, it's different. So there's a structure around me to keep myself accountable to it, when with personal there's no one, and that's why it kind of falls as a secondary thing, and why I'm much better at it on a business level than on a personal level.
Okay, so you're saying that do you think that would change, Zach, if, for example, in the future you would have kids and the responsibility of either being a parent or being a partner? Do you think that would
Yes,
put more pressure on the response, on the monetary
I think so.
responsibility?
I think so. And I've seen it in even different friends, older friends who have gone through that change, and suddenly that becomes more important. Even I recently got a loan for a house, and even there I had to take a step in that direction, because suddenly my salary is being split up. I can't be as flexible as I want. At the beginning, 2 years ago, I just used to finish my salary. If it finishes straight to zero in my bank account. I'm short term 22, it doesn't really matter. again, as responsibilities go up and you start to think a bit more ahead, and okay, maybe in 2 years you want to do this, or I want to travel, then that kind of forces you to be a bit more diligent.
Mhm. You see, and it's very different to my generation, where I was brought up with always having to do something, to do a chore, and to earn, this pocket money. And they
Mm.
always used to be chores that I really used to hate doing. So it was the gardening and all washing my father's car, which always ended up to be a real heavy, old, big car. So my idea of work was something that I didn't really like to do. I was much happier traveling around and living
Mm.
on, on pennies than having to work hard and earn some good cash.
I think
Uh,
if I may add something brief as well, it's important. I think, and I see this as well across different people, I think how you're brought up, and if you're brought up with more money around you, you're going to be less likely to budget and to be careful with it. Whereas if you've grown up with less money around you, then the culture in that household is much more saving up. Don't spend too much here. Be careful with this. I think it's wrong to speak generation wide and just on age. I think upbringing really has a huge factor to do with it.
yes.
If I may, Petra, I think there are two kind of debates here. One is kind of more the money management, the structure of whether you have a structure, whether you can, if someone asks you a question there and then, do you have the actual numbers of your average spend or where your money is, what's your average income, blah, blah, blah. But then there is then the value of money. Of whether your attitude toward money, that's kind of different. Or for example, myself, if you had to ask me, show me your expenses list, or show me how much you spent last month, I'll struggle. But on the other hand, I feel I have a very strong or very tight opinion or attitude towards spending money. I don't feel myself as doing crazy purchases. It could be, yes, because of responsibility. I have two kids. I have a loan, and I was brought up in a culture in a household where yes, you do get a loan. Yes, you do invest. Yes, you do that, but always keeping in mind the value and working hard for your money. So I think there are two aspects there. So because someone might be diligent to have everything recorded, but on the other hand, spends anyway. And yes, if at the end reach the month with zero, it's fine. Or I still manage. I don't have other commitments, so I'm fine. But then you have others who are not able to track, but still have good savings and value and really consider every purchase they do. And so I think those are two different concepts basically, and one person can have one and not the other and still get by perfectly fine. But again, both of them are typically, I think, ingrained in us either through experience, through a tough time, through a life-changing episode, or upbringing from the parents and the family and household. I don't think the educational system or anything structured has ever been taught on both sides, on both concepts that we're debating now. And I think that might be one of the issues why kind of the bad habits keep persisting, because they are being passed on from one generation to the other. And I tend to say the habits are easier to catch on than lessons. So obviously there's a drop off in terms of lessons, but habits trail on. And again, not to repeat myself, but one generation to the other, the teachings and the lessons and the habits are passed on, but the context around the generation changes. So the traveling opportunities, the ease of purchases online at a click of a button changed. So I think that even the best knowledge from one generation might not be fully adapted or fully functional, let me call that, in the next generation. And that is why we need to have a structured plan that adapts itself. And because if I tell my daughter, eventually, hopefully not now, don't buy anything online from in-app purchases. For me, it's easy because I wasn't brought up in them. So for me, I have a quite rigorous check in my head. Do I really need this €2 level up in my game that I pass just to pass time in a waiting room? But
Yeah.
in another generation, that €2 purchase is nothing. Just do it. It's there, Apple Pay, Google Pay, whatnot. So do it. And I think this is where we need to then, the teaching and the lessons need to be adapted.
Yes, yes. No, in fact, I mean, sort of, I was born within the generation when there was quite a lot of economic instability. You know, we did have recessions, we did have, we still do have high inflation rates. So even though I was sort of young or in my early teens whilst going through the various recessions, the environment around me and the media and the news, you know, even going back to 2008, automatically created that awareness. Plus, we were quite indoctrinated within the family that money was extremely important, very, very important. So much so that I ended up really hating money. So it's quite strange that now I actually work and really enjoy what I do, because I didn't have a very good relationship with money at all. And in fact, if you look at Zach's generation, so Zach's generation, what I seem to understand from my own kids and what I read, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's more focused on gaining more experiences as well. And you're growing up, you've grown up more in a digital age, just as you've mentioned, Matthew. So the meaning, the context is completely different to our understanding. But going into Zach, just a question. When it comes to investing, it's still a bit unclear from your generation side, the interest that you have in investing. Um, you are a tech savvy generation, very comfortable using all sorts of tools. But are you just curious about investment, crypto, NFTs, and all of that, just testing it out? Or is there a serious appetite in delving into this even further?
I think there are two categories of people I see playing with this. And even to your previous point, I think we've grown up in a time and in a media where it's very not money is very not scarce, and that this company sold for 10 million and that investment and this NFT is 800,000 and blah 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 blah, which kind of lowers the value of money, and everyone kind of nearly takes it for granted, like that. Well, it's easy to make money. If I put my head to it, I'll figure it out. So let me spend my early 20s traveling and gaining experience. And if I want to make money, there are quick ways to make money. And I don't really agree with that. I think you see a lot of people who tap into this investment side with crypto and other drop shipping and these types of concepts because they seem easy and short term. And it's like, okay, I can put in a year's work and make 1 million. One in 100,000 or one in 10 million gets that chance. So there's a lot of appetite, but no one really wants to put in the work, kind of thing. And I've seen that difference, and especially growing a business where you really have to think long term, and it takes 6 years for you to maybe see a return, and not even maybe in a business, not even maybe directly yourself. It's more the business, not yourself. So I feel there is much more interest in investment, but I don't think many people do take it seriously and do it in a way where they are looking for generational wealth and long-term sustainability of money. It's more like, let me try this new thing, I'll try it for 3 months. If I fail, I'll fail, but they think they won't fail. So it actually puts their money at risk, because I know people who invested 15,000 because they thought it's going to turn into 100,000, but they lost it in a week.
Mm.
You know, that can put you in very dangerous situations. I don't think there is the right education on what is a safe investment, a long-term investment, and a short-term one. I think people should play with both, right? But so have something that's going to give you a return over 20, 40 years, but then also play around. But the percentage of what you play around with needs to be something you're willing to lose. And I think that concept is very important. We hear this kind of online. It's like an investor is always going to tell you, you're going to invest 1,000 euros into crypto. Make sure you've already crossed them out in your head. Younger people who don't have that knowledge are losing a lot of money like that. So I think even education on modern ways of investing. So I haven't even gotten to the base level of investing at school, let alone crypto and these things. And I think people are more inclined to the crypto side because it sounds cooler, but we need even more education there because there isn't even the first base of it.
So, Matthew, Zach is mentioning keywords, sort of long-term investments. Your thoughts on pensions? First of all, even to the audience, whoever's listening to us, when you think of the word pension, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Can you just throw it in the chat? Matthew, millennial, what do you think about pensions? What do you think about state pensions? What do you think about private pensions? Is it something that you mentioned that you've got kids as well? Is it something that you invest in, or that you're thinking about it?
I think probably my generation, or sort of the people in my age, are kind of the limit, or sort of the break point of where sort of people older than me kind of depended on state pensions and sort of were quite confident or happy to just rely on that. And the people sort of younger than me are the ones that should really panic about state pensions and try to sort out other options for them. Kind of the gap I'm in, or at least that's my attitude. I'm kind of on the borderline of whether should I really panic? Is it okay? What I'm doing, is it enough for the savings I have? Do I just need to just top the state pension a bit? So it's still a debate in people's minds, and I feel that sort of is not yet clear how the state pension works. And again, these are not taught. There's no easy access information of this, or people have to actually consciously, someone needs to ring an alarm bell and then say, I should read into it. And that's where the people read about these things. And so I think in terms of pension plans, yes, there's a whole mixture, there's a whole debate at the moment of whether it's actually, waste of money, because then the return is not that great anyway, or at least I would have saved them rather than just spent it. So it's kind of, that is the debate at the moment. If I may go back to the investment side, I think what we need to keep in mind is that the investment and the investor profile changed a lot from when I was younger to now. When I was younger, for my father to go and invest, or someone to go invest, needed to have a bit of a pool of money that then they go to a stockbroker. They go through the checks with the stockbroker, asking them whether they want high risk, low risk, medium, what are their objectives. And then the stockbroker maybe sends them a couple options, mainly stocks in Malta or maybe some bonds. But nowadays, someone who wants to invest can buy 1/10 of a share of Amazon through a click of a button on a mobile app. So the ease of it is, and they don't need big money. They can literally buy 1/10 of a share, not even a full share of Amazon. So the perception of how is investing, what is investing, how do I manage my risks there, needs to be adapted and really exposed to people, because yes, in the media we hear that guy bought an NFT and made $1 million. The other guy invested in a startup and all of a sudden there was a buyout and he made 10 million, whatever. So we hear of these success stories, and maybe randomly we hear of this tragic story of someone invested money, lost everything, and now. But the media typically catches the good news on these things, exposes the one-off story that Zach was talking about, that people made money, and we need to be able to make people aware that there are risks associated with it. Is it a good thing that people can invest this type of money? Yes, it's good to have opportunities, and people should look at different avenues to raise finances, to work and everything. But the education and the awareness is critical. And that's why I enjoy having these debates and have these discussions, because even if we are not sharing any deep insights and knowledge about investment here, because it's not the place, but I feel having a debate, discussing money, making this more mainstream media, makes people aware that they have to look around. I believe now education, this is what education should do. Make people aware, because then content, definitions, research can happen online. There's a lot of content out there. Hopefully it's good content that you look at. But it's not the point of me giving a whole definition of what is a short-term and a long-term investment, but at least the fact that we are mentioning it and people then Google it and see how I can do this helps. And I think that awareness is critical.
You're both mentioning media, content, and we're talking about pension plans and looking towards the future and all sorts of different types of investments out of curiosity. And this is also open to the audience. When it comes to financial material, money material, how do you prefer to receive this this content? Because most of the time we're blinded. I mean, we're driving along and there's loads of billboards. Everybody's promoting this fixed term investment. There's that everywhere. But you're just driving. You see it, but you don't really look at it. So from my perspective, I like to read. Zach and Matthew, how do you prefer to receive this kind of content? Is it through TikTok that you understand what's the latest incentive on pensions, or is it through a leaflet in the junk mail in your post box? What grabs your attention?
For my generation, I'd say literally the first thing you mentioned, it's TikTok, and I find most new things in general, not just even if it's a new tool I should be using in my business or a new app that's popping off. It's a well-made TikTok about it. Emphasis on well-made. So that's the variable of success in entering that space. It is useless to just make TikToks in without having the platform knowledge and the format knowledge on how to do that, because it's just not going to go anywhere. And again, it's usually someone literally grabbing their phone, explaining, guess how I did this, and then literally them flipping the camera and showing you on their screen. 30 seconds max, you know. And I find myself saving a lot of those videos and then going back to them and referring back to them when I need them. So again, even though I might not consume it or feel like understanding it at 10 p.m. in the evening, but I might save it and then use it as a resource later on. I do this every day, and everyone around me and my age does as well. Especially, for example, ChatGPT, right? That's the kind of last craze kind of thing.
Yeah.
The amount of things that I get and on tips on how to use it, and this new AI tool that does this, which for our business is obviously very interesting. So I find myself saving a lot of those and then trying them out in my free time.
Yes, no, ChatGPT, I'm telling you, it's my new best friend. It's
I'm sure it
brilliant.
is.
Absolutely brilliant. Matthew, what about yourself in terms of content, marketing, material? How do you prefer to receive this, to get to know about latest investments or good
I think
ideas?
I think as Zach said, TikTok is very helpful. I mean, I found myself installing TikTok purely because of work, because obviously we deal with you. I didn't feel the need that I needed TikTok. So, but using it now, I get tips on yes, latest AI tools, money management tools, Excel, Microsoft Excel tools, because that's what I sort of, as Zach said, then you save and say, this is I might need this one day, and you save it. But also other social media. So for me, having someone who I'm following because of work, because of what they do, or their networks on LinkedIn, for example, posting something gets me curious to then research, and maybe at least it's there, and when I need it or something happens and I say, yes, I saw that guy commenting about it, let me go find it again. I find the sort of small snippet information helps to make you aware of things, and then you research when you need them. And this leads me to timing. So like any other marketing thing, it's all about timing. So if I see something which I feel it's not relevant to me, I'll skip it. And maybe tomorrow I'll regret it because that was actually what I needed now. So for me, yes, the leaflets at home, pure waste of money, environmental damage and whatnot. Emails are starting to also become a bit redundant. Because there are so many emails, the last thing you want to do is read another one just out of curiosity. So I think short snippets, short videos will certainly help. And as I said, because then if someone wants to dig deeper, there's resources online, so they can dig deeper on their own. You don't need to spill everything and spoon feed people in their first point of contact.
Mm-hmm. Instagram and LinkedIn the same for me. It's getting a snippet and then copy pasting the link or clicking the link and having a look myself.
Yeah, Zach, do you think about the far future? Do you think about retirement?
No.
No. Matthew?
In fact, even when you mentioned the word pension, and I assume it's the same in my age group, it's really not something that people are thinking about.
So if so what would be a better adjective or a better word instead of pension for you?
I don't know. I think at the beginning of your career, you're not really thinking about the end of it.
Why would it be the end of it?
I don't know. So to me, immediately it has that kind of connotation. It's much later on. It's towards the end of that kind of journey in work specifically.
Yeah.
So that's again, I can't even answer. It would be my opinion.
Yes, yes. Matthew, what do you think?
I think I'm finding myself more and more, rather than thinking, okay, so how will I be earning pension, or what pension will I be earning? I'm thinking of, okay, how can I extend my income? So what things can I do in now to set up a base so that my income stays on longer? So maybe be able to, I don't know, set up something that then even if I am not able to work in it, there's income still coming from it. Or how can I get into investments that there's a return happening without me having to actively work on it, because at that age I can't keep working all these long hours. So it's I think it's pretty much that now, is how can I generate income without me actually working on it? So passive income. I think it's where my head would probably be going, and I'm not sure if this is a commenting or whether it's just me and my crazy thoughts.
Yes. No, I mean, I'm going to be 50, and about a month ago, I freaked my husband out because I told him, "We're going to retire soon. You know, we need to have private pension plans. Do we have enough money?" And he was like, "Whoa, relax. Where did all this come from?" You know. So again, the three generations. Yes, we do. I think their life stages that you're at, but it's also financial life stages that that we are at, where we see things completely different. So from both of you,
just last point, just to touch on it, but this also comes into that type of money management that we were saying sort of is lacking also in terms of awareness and education, because if we explain to people more the concept of compound interest and the build-up, that what happens if you save something regularly for 30, 40 years, what happens there? I mean, I saw a couple of TikToks actually on this and explaining it visually, and it's impressive. So I think even this connotation of pension, and as Zach said, it's pension, I deal with it when I retire. But if we convert that to things like the building up of compound interest, the building up of reinvesting something in yourself, I think that would change the whole mindset, the whole attitude of people. Because pension is something I deal with when I retire, while the showing me the build-up of what happens if I start now, and you don't need to link it up to pension or to when you retire, but if you put something today and you repeat that every month for 30 years, this is the end result, and this is what will happen at the end. And I think this is where, again, the explaining concepts of compound interest, reinvestment is the trick, in my opinion.
yeah. So what we're saying is really flipping things around, not using the usual words, you know, keywords that we are so used to and get blinded at retirement. Oh, you know, let's flip it around. Let's show people actually, you know, by doing these changes, you're actually going to be, you know, making money without having to mention retirement or pension or longevity. So just a quick question: how do you prioritize saving money versus spending on experiences? How do you prioritize that?
Say, first of all, we have 1 minute left. I don't know if it's going to end the call.
No, we're fine. We're fine.
Okay. Can you repeat the question, because I was panicked there?
How do you prioritize saving money versus spending on experiences? Do you prefer to save, or do you prefer to spend on experiences?
I think I think it changes by time as well, Petra, because previously myself, I invested a lot in experiences. I traveled a lot. I lived in Holland. I lived in London. I lived in Newcastle. Moved, paying rent, exorbitant rents, but it wasn't really an issue at that time. I wouldn't do it now, because again, I have two kids, commitments. So now my priorities are obviously shifted completely, and also because life is what is, and you need to keep up with the inflation and the costs that are coming up, and maintenance of the house and everything. So, but yeah, I think priorities change also with time.
What's you, Zach? What do you?
I think I try balance both. In fact, what I do is I have a separate travel account on my BOV account, and I have an automatic transfer that sends 300 euros a month to that account. So like that, I'm kind of guaranteeing that I'm building that slowly without having to worry about it. And then I can use the portion of my salary which goes into my usable funds, and that I can spend to zero kind of thing. But then I have a part for my loan and a part for travel, which I'm accounting for. I think most people want one nice holiday a year, or want to be able to maybe save up for 2 years and then go abroad for 3 months and have an extended experience there, or maybe do a course in something. So I think it's, for me personally, I try balance it like that. However, previous to this year, it was very like, I want to go abroad, see what I have, see what I can do, and then make it happen, and not really worry about the kind of ramifications of draining my account. And I think naturally, as you get older, you consider other things as well.
Yeah. Yes. No, I just go for experiences. At my age, I go for experiences now.
No, I don't think people are. There are obviously people who love like buying a €1,000 pair of shoes, but I think the majority much prefer experience based.
And what's the one thing you really hate paying for? First thing that comes to mind.
Hate what?
That you hate paying for. For example, I hate paying for parking. I find it such a waste. Such a waste
Quite a
of
good
money.
one. Quite a good one.
Well, for me, now that you mentioned it, that sort of one big hate I have with spending extra is going to, because I'm celiac, so I need gluten-free food, and I really have a big hate seeing restaurants where I don't know, a plate of pasta is X amount, and then you have €2 extra for gluten-free. And as a matter of principle, I end up choosing something which is by default gluten-free. Not simply, I really hate that that additional thing. Just it's a condition, I have it, so why kind of charge me more? And I really hate that bit.
Yes, definitely. Anything from you, Zach?
Nothing strikes. I'm not too fussy when it comes to. I don't mind spending. I'm not the type to be overly cautious in that sense. But parking is probably a good one. Everyone kind of hates that, like €2 suddenly seems like €500 when it's just for.
Exactly. Yeah, it seems so extra. All right, guys, those
Thank
are
you.
all the questions from me. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Give it to you, Natasha.
Yes.
Thank you, Petra. Thank you, everyone. I didn't want to forget to mention that we did have a couple of answers to your questions during the discussion on the chat as well. So to your first question or second question, I believe, yes, first question, you had an answer from Glorianne about retirement. So whether will be due a state pension and whether it'll be enough to cover a decent or basic livelihood. And the next question, how do you prefer to receive content about financial material? We had another guest called Sasha. He or she said TikTok, since young people are on it so much, I feel like it's the best way to come across to young adults. Glorianne, again, thank you, Glorianne. You have been very, very active. The same question for me, to take it seriously, I prefer for it to be a short course or part of a course. Disclaimer, I'm a millennial. Good, thank you so much. And the last question, Glorianne, again, thank you. I think you're our favorite guest now. So parking, yes, so Glorianne agrees with you. And Amy, definitely sanitary products, so expensive. Yes, I think that's a whole other webinar. The female, the pink tax, I believe it's called, right? Yes, and we have another answer from Janine, children's online content, gaming. Okay. I could add quite a few things to the list, but I'm afraid we're running out of time. I want to thank Petra, Zach, and Matthew so much for this lovely conversation. Thank you, of course, to all of our guests for joining us. Some of you joined us quite last minute this morning, possibly. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, because this webinar, I think, is quite an interesting subject, and I think it should be shared. It will be shared on EPALE and also through our YouTube channel. My colleague Mariah has just also shared on the chat a link to a form, a feedback form to this session, and she will also share with you our socials, our links as well, if you want to get in touch with us. Thank you so much. This is the end of webinar 3. We will be back next month. The webinar next month will happen on the 19th of May in the afternoon, and the topic is going to be completely different. We're going to talk about green skills, and we're going to be hosting our colleagues from Jobs Plus. Have a lovely, lovely long weekend if you are lucky enough to have one, and we'll be back next month. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.